Hello everybody and welcome to Watch Dan Reviews. Today I'll be taking a look at the original Grain Hawaiian Koa 44mm chronograph. This is a 44mm case and a 54mm lug-to-lug, 11.2 millimeters thick, 100 meter water resistant, with a screw down crown and a whopping 180 grams. So let's take a little closer look at this thing, huh? I was hesitant to do this review. It's never my intention to badmouth any brand. You know, every watch brings something to the table, so I want to give them a fair shake. There's a couple things I like about this watch and a couple things that I dislike. I think it's pretty cool that it is a watch inlaid with wood. This Koa wood is pretty nice. It's got a really nice grain to it. You know, it reminds me of something you'd find in like a Mercedes-Benz in the dashboard. But this is a $349 watch, and I suspect this watch has a quartz Miyota movement in it. And it's almost like Original Grain got together and said, okay, we've been making cheaper watches, but what is it about the more expensive watches that people like? And somebody shouted out, oh, a sapphire glass. Definitely got to have sapphire glass. Got to have, you know, at least 100 meters water resistance. Got to have a screw down crown. You know, heavy duty swing arm would be a good thing. Like a nice beefy swing arm. That's one thing that you notice on more expensive watches. It was like a marketing meeting and a branding meeting, and that's what they came up with. And that's how they came up with this kind of upper scale Original Grain watch. Because as far as I know, a lot of their watches are actually made not entirely out of wood, but out of more wood than this, with this being quite a bit more stainless steel. But it's certainly an interesting watch, and I'll just go over some of the features. Like I said, it is a chronograph, obviously. It says it right there on the front. It's got a seconds register there. It's got a minutes register over here, date window at the bottom, and then your chronograph buttons on the side here. They're stainless steel, so the top one gets it started. And it's now moving. And if you press it again, it stops. Then you press your bottom one, and it wraps itself around all the way back to the top, just a hair past the top indice at 12. They were nice enough to give you quite a bit of lume on this watch, and it's very bright when it's first charged up, but it drops off very quickly. You have lume all the way around the outside of the indices. You have lume on the seconds hand over here, lume on the minute hand over here, lume on the hour and the long minute hand, and you even have lume on the chronograph hand. So that's kind of nice. You can see at nighttime, you know, you can time something at nighttime, no problem. So that's really cool. It's pretty slim. It's 11.2 millimeters thick, so not substantially tall, but it is a pretty big watch. Again, at 54 millimeters from lug to lug, this is going to be a watch that you're going to want to put on a bigger wrist of at least 7¼ inches, maybe even more. They give you these little crown guards here that are, you know, I'm not sure how much they really do, but they're there. The dial is kind of cool looking, you know. It's got like a ring on the outside of it, and then a vertical grain, and then that cool looking applied Original Grain logo at the top with some Koa wood inlaid as well. It's an interesting watch. The links are held together by, I believe, split pins. Let's see. So obviously in the marketing meeting, they didn't say, oh, you got to put screws in the links, because that's a sign of a higher quality watch. They decided not to do that. Again, the wood is very nice. It's real wood. It's Koa wood. And according to their website, it's sustainably harvested from trees that have already fallen, as to not disturb the natural forests. The clasp on the back has kind of a faux grain pattern to it. It is just a stamped clasp. There's no, you know, quick adjustment in here or anything like that. And those are some of the things I like about this watch. The screw down crown's actually pretty good. Obviously it's not going to wind, but it has a good feel to it, and when you thread it back up, it actually threads up pretty well. Not bad. It locks into place pretty good. So those are just a few of the things that I like about this watch, and I think I mentioned it's a sapphire crystal on the top, and it's 100 meters water resistant, so you can take this swimming, no problem. So now that I've talked about the things that I like, I'll talk about some of the things that I think could be improved. First things first, it's obvious that these lugs were welded on, because you can see the burnishing marks all the way around them from where they tried to conceal the welds on there. And I wiped it off with a cloth thinking, oh, it's just dirty. But no, that's burnish marks. Another thing, the end links, while obviously solid, could really use a little bit of work. They're very unrefined and not very well finished. The satin finish on the case is pretty decent, other than the burnishing marks. It's not bad. Most of my complaints about this watch are going to be in the bracelet, and it's a 23 millimeter lug, and it doesn't taper down, I don't think, at all when it gets to the clasp. So I can wear this watch for about 20 to 30 minutes before it starts to get extremely uncomfortable. And the swing arm on the bottom is jagged and unrefined, and it kind of digs into your wrist, and it becomes a bit of a chore to wear this watch. And I'll make sure I get some wrist shots for you guys a little bit later. But yeah, it's just not comfortable. And it's not like the Christopher Ward where you can wear it for a couple hours before you start to feel like, I just want to take this thing off. I want to get this off my wrist pretty quick after I put it on. So again, it's not my intention to badmouth any brand. Believe it or not, I don't know the guys who own this brand, but I used to work on some product development with a guy who helped them build their brand and was in charge of basically all their branding and getting them from a fledgling company to a rather large company. And I remember before they were just getting started, and he said, these guys are going to be huge. And I wasn't really that into watches back then. But now that I have one in my hands and I have quite a bit more experience with watches, I realize that it is just marketing. You know, this watch may cost $100 to make, it may cost $80 to make, but for $349, you can certainly do a lot better. And by a lot better, I mean, you know, for $249, you can get something like this. It's an automatic, and it's durable and reliable and very nicely finished. And I'll pull the case back off this one as well to give you guys a little better look at the movement. But I guess that's really all I have to say about the original Grain. You're buying the wood, guys, when you buy this watch. That's really it. It's not, I don't want to badmouth them, but it's really not anything to write home about. Save your money. If you're going to spend $350 on a watch, do yourself a favor, buy something else. You know, maybe you can pick one of these up for like $50 to $100 after sale or on sale, or, you know, on the secondary market. I guess that's really all I got to say about this thing. Let me pause this. I'll be right back. I'm going to pull the bracelet off so we can get a little closer look at that. And then I'm also going to use my handy dandy case back tool to pop the case back off, and we can see what kind of movement's in here. Bear with me. I'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. So when I had this video pause, I realized my point was not to badmouth this brand. If you like this watch and you want to get it, by all means get it, you know. Wear it in good health and enjoy it. What you're hearing here is just my opinions. So everybody's got their opinion. And this may be the coolest watch ever made to you. And if you like it and you think it's cool, that's all that really matters, right? So I'm gonna go over the bracelet here. You can see the little arrows pointing which way to drop those pins out. Get a little closer look at that end link there. You know, if they could have just gone a little further with that, little nitpicky things like that are what us watch collectors tend to look at and notice. Let's see here. Flip this open and just get a little better look at that. That's pretty unique, yeah? I actually kind of like that. I think that's really cool. Oh yeah, well of course we need to look at the wood, right? So the Koa wood apparently is it's a Hawaiian type of wood that has been used in ceremonies for millennia. And you know, being a fan of fine hardwoods, this is pretty nice to look at. So let's see here. Now I'm just going to bring this a little closer and we'll see if we can't get a good look at that dial. So it's cool that it's got a vertical grain and then it's got a radial pattern around the outside and that nice inlay at the top. And the bezel. The bezel is probably my favorite part about this watch. You know, it kind of plays with the light. It's just really pretty. And like I said, you're buying the wood here, guys, but that's really nice inlay. And it's got a little bit of a bevel to it. It's kind of rounded almost. I don't know if I'll be able to get that on camera, but I'll try. See how it's kind of rounded? It feels real nice to the touch. Flipping her over, a rather generic case back here. Original grain, premier maker of wood and steel watches, 10 ATM chronograph. So that's what you get here. You can see those little burnish marks a little better there since I took that bracelet off. But let's see. So I'm going to try to do this on camera. What I want to do is try to pull this off. And this is the first time I've ever done this on camera. And the first time I've ever pulled this case back off on this particular watch. Jeez. Well, if it wasn't scratched, it's scratched now, right? Bear with me here, guys. This is tricky in front of the camera. I've seen some of the other guys do this type of thing before, and believe me, it's harder than it looks. Because I don't want to bang my camera around and give you guys a headache, but I think we're almost off here. I can probably do it by hand from now on. Let's see. And off you go. Alrighty. There we go. So what are we working with here? We're working with a Miyota 6S21 with no jewels. So, I don't know, what can I say? It's a quartz movement. It looks nicer than the movement in my Lacoste watch, which cost $100, so it must be a step up. I think the 6S21 is like a $27 to $30 movement online. It's probably very reliable. I'm sure it holds up for a while, and you know, probably never give you any problems as long as you keep swapping out that battery. But yeah, that's what we got, guys. I'm not going to go any further in pulling this thing out of here. I don't want to mess this watch up because, you know, my intention is never to damage any of my watches. But let's have a look at this case back here. Somewhat generic. I hope that's not rust on the inside there. I don't want to touch it though because I don't want to mess it up. But yeah, that's not super exciting, is it? Okay. Well, now that I've done that, I'll go ahead and set this thing aside, and like I told you, I'm going to pull the case back off my Miyota. And this will be the first automatic case back I've ever removed. But I really actually like this watch a lot, and I don't want to mess it up. So what I think I'll do here is probably pause the camera for 1 minute and pull this thing off without scratching the heck out of it. So I'll be right back in just a second. Okay, we're back. It was substantially more difficult to unscrew this case back than it was to unscrew the original grain, but I managed to get it off without messing it up. So let's just take a look at this. Case China Timex SA. You know, I kind of figured that this was a Japanese movement in a Chinese case, but it's nice of them to let you know when you pull the case back off that that is in fact the case. No pun intended. Let's get a little closer look at this Miyota, huh? So one thing you can't see when the case back is on there, that this thing is held in by a giant plastic ring, which was kind of to be expected. You know, it makes me want to pull the case back off my Orient to see if that's going on there too. But whatever, it is what it is. Like I said, I really like this watch for what it is. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's a super reliable watch for a really good price. And I just like the way it looks. It really does remind me of a Zen 556. And to be honest, I really miss my Zen. That's one of those watches that I kind of hastily sold earlier on in my watch collecting career. And, you know, sometimes you make those decisions and you live to regret them. That's one that I regret, because that was a great watch. But this thing just sort of reminds me of that. So, anyways. So we have two watches that both have Miyota movements. One quartz and one automatic. And I think the Miyota 8215 goes for about $35 to $40 maybe online, versus the quartz, which is like $27 to $30. So they're not too far off in terms of price point, but you can see just how big that quartz movement is compared to the Timex movement. Not sure which one has more moving parts, probably the automatic, but who knows? Probably Google. All right, well, I guess I got to get you guys some Lume shots here, so I'm going to pause this just for one more minute, and we will wrap this thing up. Okay, both watches are reassembled, and now let's take a look at the original grain on my 7.5-inch wrist. You can see it's a wide watch, it's a long watch from lug to lug, and I have rather large hands, and again a 7.5-inch wrist, so I can pull this watch off no problem. It's a little on the bigger side even for me, but you can see the height is not bad, but it's kind of a big rectangle. So it makes it look like it's much taller than it really is. That 23mm bracelet does not taper, and it takes up quite a bit of real estate on the wrist. But that's the trade-off. 23mm is pretty big for a bracelet. So you could be a giant and pull this watch off, but if you're a smaller person, I just have a feeling it would look kind of goofy on you. So anyways, let's get some Lume shots. I'll be right back. All right, and we're back. I'm gonna go ahead and charge this thing up with my awesome UV torch, and then we'll kill the lights and we'll check it out. Yep, that should be enough, huh? Off with ye. And there we go. So the Lume is pretty bright on this. It's not like Seiko bright, and to be honest, well, it's bright initially, but it looks like it drops off really, really quickly. And you may not be able to tell with the camera. Let me go ahead and fire up the chronograph here, because that's one thing I think is pretty cool about this watch, that you can see that chronograph hand moving at nighttime. So it's probably not showing up very well on the camera, but for the naked eye, this Lume has diminished significantly over the last minute. I presume it will diminish significantly more over the next 10 minutes to the point where it's probably not very legible. So the Lume is not going to be a strong suit, but if you look closely, you can see that little seconds hand register on the right side ticking away, and the minute hand register on the left side is also illuminated. So you have all 12 indices illuminated. You have a minute hand, a second hand, a chronograph hand, and a minute register and a second register illuminated. So there's quite a bit of little Lume plots on this watch. I'm not sure how effective that little seconds hand or that little minute hand would be at nighttime. It'd probably be virtually impossible to have any idea like where it actually is unless it hits the 15 like it is now. So that's the original Grain Koa 44mm, guys. I appreciate you watching, and thank you, and everybody have a wonderful weekend. If you like, please like. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe. If not, no big deal. But until the next one, we'll see you guys next time. Bye now.